This next topic is quite amusing, actually. And it's
there is no money matter that is
hike in it. Oh, this I find this one very amusing.
Really?
Because I don't recall when last I went to an ATM machine to draw money.
Yes.
Because
but you
they never have money.
Oh, they sometimes have money. Come on.
And then they will tell me I can only draw 10,000 naira of my own money.
No.
Why should anybody tell me how much to withdraw of my own money that I gave them to hold for me?
All things are passed away.
Oh,
yes.
All things have become new.
Yeah, all things have become new.
Okay. So the Central Bank of Nigeria has eliminated the 3 monthly withdrawals, 3 free monthly withdrawals previously allowed for customers using other banks' ATMs. So if you bank with Ayo, for instance, and you want to use Alero's ATM, you can use mine free for 3 months. You can use it 3 free times. After that, you start paying me because it is from Ayo's bank that you are drawing money from me.
That was then.
But now, no more freebie.
All things are passed away.
In a circular dated February 10th, 2025, the Apex Bank directed all banks and financial institutions to implement new ATM withdrawal charges from March 1st, 2 weeks from now. This means customers will now pay for every single withdrawal made from another bank's ATM. Everything done hard for Nigeria now. Nobody wants to give you any kind of service for free. That's the long and short of this story. Well, there must be more to it. So we have invited the Acting Director, Financial Policy and Regulation Department, Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. John Simon Onoja, who joins us virtually. Good morning, Mr. Onoja.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. We also have with us a public affairs analyst in the studio with us, Mr. Monday Ashivogu.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Monday, why are you laughing?
Well, the last word is suffering and smiling, so we could also laugh while, okay. At least for now it's free. I'm not paying for laughing or smiling.
Laughing is free. Mr. Onoja, please, can you explain to us the rationale behind this new CBN directive?
Thank you very much, moderator. The Central Bank of Nigeria is a government agency that is mandated to ensure that the stability in the financial system and that every player in the system is playing according to rules.
Okay.
The Central Bank also ensures that operators are not played out of business while also safeguarding the interest of the consumers, in this case, the customers of banks. And like one of your colleagues just said now, it has been a very thorny issue in the past few moments that you go to the ATM or the automated teller machines, and then you don't get the cash that you deserve. Or sometimes, like you said, you get there and discover that you are regulated on how much you can withdraw out of your own money. And that has not been a palatable experience at all. And so the central bank has worked with the financial institutions to ensure that those issues and challenges are becoming the things of the past. And so what we have come out with is a situation where, to start with, you are very sure that each time you get to the machine, you are sure of getting cash out of the machine. That's the first one. We have gotten with the banks the commitment of the banks to ensure that you don't go to the banks, to the ATM, and be told that there's no money. Number two, we have also ensured that when you get to the bank, at least we have set a minimum of 20,000 naira that you can withdraw at your own wish. You may withdraw 5,000 or 3,000 as the case may be, but if you want to withdraw up to 20,000 at a go, you have the access to your cash to withdraw that amount of money. Then the third one is to say that even in remote locations, you will have machines that are there, not on the premises of banks, either your own bank or the other bank that you mentioned just now, but you have access to the machines, even in remote locations. Although what we say there is that is going to attract like a premium charge, but at least it's going to give you an opportunity to have cash at all the time. Then on the side of the banks, deploying machines are quite expensive. They are capital intensive. I wouldn't tell you how much it costs the bank to deploy just one machine. And so we need also encourage them to be able to do at least what we call cost recovery. So it's a balanced circular that came out. While we look at the side of the bank, that at least they should be able to recover their cost, we also want to be sure that the consumer, the customer to the bank, at any point in time, have access to cash.
All right, Mr. Ashibogo, beg your pardon, Doctor.
Oh, excuse me.
You were laughing the other time, but if you look at the circular from the CBN, signed, of course, by Mr. Onoja, it begins with, in response to rising costs and the need to improve efficiency of ATM services in the banking industry. Is that, what's your take on that?
Well, I want to say that that's the first genuine answer I've gotten from the Central Bank of Nigeria on this issue. The truth is, across board, every business is actually trying to cope with rising cost. And one of the things you would find is either you would shut down some aspects of the services you render, or there will be some form of deficiency in service delivery, or you may find some form of inefficiency lurking around the corner. Then the issue of trust deficit comes to play. So this rising cost for businesses also affects financial institutions. And I think the CBN, perhaps in their wisdom, have taken that into consideration to ensure that there's cash always available on ATM machines. Some banks have become so notorious that you won't find the cash once it's after closing hours. And we are quite aware that the CBN had to sanction some of the banks recently for that. For us, it's the challenge is, will the banks actually keep to this promise that anytime you get to the ATM, you will find the cash that you so deserve. But there's also another concern to this. The CBN also acknowledged that banks can be everywhere. And that was why we had the financial inclusion document and strategy that was developed by the CBN that led to the emergence of fintechs and the deployment of POS terminals all around the country. And today they dot the landscape in millions. And it's expected that they should be able to bridge the gap between what the banks will offer and other service providers. But today that's not the case. You rarely find cash in most ATM machines. And the banks are alluding to this fact that you have to have a staff that is there 24/7. I recall in the early days of the ATM machines, they deployed as much as 3 to 4 members of staff who were dedicated solely to ensuring that there was always cash on those machines. If the CBN acknowledges that, yes, financial institutions are struggling with cost and also the efficiency of such, and they, in their wisdom, feel that 100 naira will not be a bad idea to take out of someone on each withdrawal.
20,000.
Mind you that it is not this time restricted to charges on other financial institutions that you use. The charge also applies to on the ATM of your own bank as well.
Wait a minute.
Oh, really?
Well, Mr. Onoja, is that correct?
No.
Because you have on us.
No, just
your circular.
Just a second.
Hold on.
No,
I have a copy of the circular. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. We have a copy of the circular that say on us and not on us. And there's a maximum cap to which that will go up to between 100 to 450 naira to 500. Now, what we are concerned about is if you move to another financial institution, what will compel you to move to another financial institution is the availability of your financial institution around the territory where you want to withdraw your money. Now, there's also going to be what they call the ripple effect. If there's a charge on every 20,000, what it means is that people have this way of reacting without even getting the accurate details of these financials. What you will find is that POS operators will automatically hike their prices.
Of course.
Because the next information you will get is that, oh, CBN has asked banks to charge for cash. And for that reason, we would also add to that. And this was common with this 50 naira stamp duty that this government implemented on fintechs now, saying that, look, anything above 10,000 requires this electronic money transfer levy, which had always been with other financial institutions like the banks. The reaction is always for people to transfer the cost to the consumer. I understand that the central bank wants the banks to remain sustainable and efficient in doing their businesses. But the question now will be, do they have the capacity? Because most of the staffs had been they've let them go because they couldn't manage.
You've raised a number of issues, Dr. Ashibok, but let's get Mr. Onoja to quickly respond to some of them. Go ahead, Mr. Onoja, particularly that first one where he's spoken about the charges of own banks.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, that is not what we put out there. To say the least, that's not the accurate information that we put out there. Anytime you withdraw cash from a machine that is owned by your financial institution, you do not pay.
You do not pay immediately, or you do not pay at all?
You don't pay at all.
Because there have been experiences, just a second, sir. There have been experiences where, I mean, you receive...
Can I just end?
Okay, go ahead.
So, again, okay, let me just say this. I was going to say this later, but because it becomes very necessary now, let me say it. If you go to our website, the CBN website, there are a number of frequently asked questions that are there that clarify some of these issues. We have at least up to 20 questions that we think Nigerians are asking, and we provided answers to them for clarity, because all the details cannot be on that 1 and 1/3 page circular. So for every time you withdraw using your card on your bank, you do not pay any charge for withdrawal on ATM. Even if it is the premium one, the premium location we are talking about, where you pay 500 naira, at most 500 naira for withdrawing on a machine that is outside, that is offsite, and the premium location that the bank is not there, your own bank is not there, the other bank is not there, but the ATM is just deployed because people who go to hotels, amusement parks, and superstores, they will need some cash at a point. Those ones you pay premium charge. But as long as it is that machine belongs to your own bank, you do not pay any fee on it.
Okay.
So what you pay,
on that, quick question on that, and I hope I'm the only one. If I'm not the only one, I still have 2 other people here at least who can speak to it. That sometimes at the end of, from time to time, maybe monthly or something, your bank is going to send you a text and say, ATM services or card services or stuff like that. Isn't that part of it?
Okay. Now, let me also say that the ATM circular we released is part of a global guide to charges that the central bank has worked on, which is going to come out eventually. So the question you're asking is on card maintenance.
I use the card on ATMs as well. And yes, I bought the card because they collected money from me for using the card, for getting the card. Shouldn't that suffice? Yes, shouldn't that suffice?
So, technically speaking, the cost of the card does not stop at the point you pay for that plastic. Each time you use the card, either on POS or on ATM or on other channels, for that transaction to complete, there are a number of costs that are involved. We talk of the acquirer, we talk of other facilitators, which is not meant for this ATM discussion that we are having. But suffice it to say that what they are charging you is to let you know that each time you use that card, for you to place that card on a device, for the money to leave your account and go to the merchant, or go to the person you want to send it to, or go to any other bank, there are a number of about 3-4 participators are there. And so each of them have costs. And so the banks tell you that a minimum charge, or what they call the maintenance charge, or the usage of that card is charged on either a quarterly basis or a monthly basis.
I wonder why I would buy a card and not use it, but hey, but there's some...
We have engaged them, and we have addressed issues around there. That is going to come out eventually. And I think it's also for the good of the customer.
Okay, well, something... just a second, Alera. Okay, go ahead.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I need us to come to terms with the Central Bank of Nigeria. We are to say, because for whatever reason he's given, that the capacity is not there to monitor and to ensure that compliance is made with this regulation, is to come into our own arena and decide for us or speak for us what we can do or what we cannot do. And I don't think that is fair. We have enough capacity within the CBN, and like one of you have just said, in the recent past, banks that have failed to comply, remember, the mantra for this current administration in CBN is compliance. The governor is called Mr. Compliance. And so the financial institutions are aware.
Well, my apologies. I know that Dr. Ashibogo has a response for you, but before we go to that, because I know that Alera has questions for you as well. There are three columns in your circular. Not on Us has two others. It says on-site ATMs, off-site ATMs, and so help us understand. So that at least those who will bear these costs will know exactly what you're talking about.
Not on Us means you are using a card issued by XYZ Bank on a machine that is provided by ABC Bank.
Go ahead.
So you have to.
Yeah, so when you say on-site ATMs, that's a charge of 100 naira per 20,000. An off-site ATM at a charge of 100 plus a surcharge. Help us understand that.
Okay, so that's number one. The second one is on-site ATMs means you walk into the premises of a bank, a financial institution that is not your own bank, and you use your card on the machine. That is on-site, not on Us. Okay. Meaning, yes, so you are using a card on the site of a bank that is not your financial institution.
Yes.
That's the second level. The third level is you are using a machine that is not in the premises of any bank, neither your own nor the other bank, but you are withdrawing from that machine. Meaning you can have a machine in a hotel. There's no bank in that hotel, but a bank can go there and install a machine.
Does that apply to POS as well?
Well, I will beg that we concentrate on this and get it clear, and then probably find time to talk about the POS. Because I want this to get out very clear. You ask for, so can I finish explaining that third level?
Okay, go ahead.
If I expect you to tell me now you are okay with it, then I can stop.
No, go ahead. I want to understand. Because I only asked because it's not a bank as well, so just help us understand that better.
There's a machine that is in Mr. B Hotel, for instance.
Okay.
And that machine is installed by C Hotel. And I have a card that belongs to Z Bank. So I go to a C Bank machine that is not in the premises of the C Bank, but in a remote premise. So number one, the first cost I incur is that I'm going to use my card on the machine that does not belong to my bank. I pay the 100 naira because it's not my bank. Then the second level, of course, which is optional, like we said in the circular, you are now withdrawing on a remote premium location, and that attracts a surcharge of at most 500 naira. But before you press yes, it will display on the screen for you that because this machine is not belonging to your bank, it belongs to another bank, and not even in the premises of that other bank, in a remote premise, are you happy to pay X naira as a surcharge? You must say yes to it before the cash is dispensed to you. So those are the 3 levels of cost.
Okay. I'm still. What if it's say Onoja International Bank, right? And this ATM is in Ashibogu Hotel, and it wasn't Onoja International Bank that put it there. Help us understand how that works.
You are going into an area in the past where probably we had independent operators installing machines.
But isn't that what you just described?
No. What I described is this machine belongs to Onoja International Bank, in your own words. Okay. I don't have a bank.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Onoja International Bank.
Okay.
But it is not in the building, in a branch of Onoja International Bank.
Okay. Yes.
Now installed in XY Hotel.
Yes.
You know, we have said 3 things now.
Yes.
It belongs to Onoja International Bank.
Yes.
But it's not in the banking premise of Onoja International Bank.
Yes.
It's in an independent location, which we call a remote location.
Yes.
If, let me try to pick your name.
You mean Dr. Ashibogu, okay?
If Dr. Ashibogu International Bank has a customer that has a card that now goes to use his card on Onoja International Bank machine.
Yes.
Inside Alero Hotel.
Inside Alero Hotel.
Yes.
And he's susceptible to pay the 100 naira because it does not belong to his financial institution, and is optional. If he chooses to withdraw there, he pays at most 500 naira.
What if it is the ATM card of Onoja International Bank in Alero Hotel?
I've said it earlier. As long as the machine belongs to your bank, whether it is in the premises of a fiscal bank that you go,
or a remote. What if it's a remote?
Or in a remote location?
Okay.
You don't pay anything.
Okay, that's better understood. Well, Dr. Ashibogu, you will have some responses.
Well, you said I was being unfair. Let me apologize also in advance for being unfair, but I think we're talking from experience that you said we're encroaching into their turf. I don't have any problem with CBN in terms of compliance. Some of us have seen the results in years where sanctions are applied to erring financial institutions, and some of them pay heavy fines. What we are concerned about is capacity, right? Capacity. Today, some have converted their branches to cash points. Some banks have converted their branches to cash points just to manage costs of running their business. And the first reason the central bank gave for this cost to be added to ATM transactions is rising cost and to improve efficiency. And it's going to start from 1st of March. Will banks do all this recruitment, get all these people to be on and off sites? Now, for off sites, I have my own worries, which I would express. We recall when these off-site ATM machines were deployed by financial institutions, and the fraud that happened from people's cards being compromised were largely from off-site. And the same central bank asked most of these financial institutions to take off those off-site machines.
Okay.
Now you are asking them now to go to that off-site location. I am still worried about the capacity of the central bank and the financial institutions to stem the tide of that these fraudulent transactions that happened Within that period, we had off-site terminals, all dotting the landscape. I think over time they've restricted it to maybe some very, hotels, maybe 5-star hotels or 4-star hotels, as the case may be. So that would be our worry.
Okay. Yes. Dr. Hibok, do you think, looking at the policy, I know we have some responses to take already. Looking at the policy, what is your take? Do you imagine that there was some significant or sufficient interface between the banks that you are worried may not have significant or sufficient capacity to execute these policies? Because at the end of the day, the CBN is more of a regulator. So do you think, from on the surface of the policy, do you think there was some kind of engagement with the banks before this policy? There was,
and there still is. I'm well aware of that, and I know the CBN is not only engaging with banks alone. It's engaging with all other financial institutions who are involved in this. There are service providers, there are companies that will also provide these ATM machines. There are, of course, companies also who are providing payment solutions for these financial institutions.
So then, if they were part of the process, then they shouldn't have a problem with
I do not have
capacity.
A problem with a policy.
Okay.
I have a problem with implementation.
By the banks,
not with the CBN. And that's why when he said it's unfair,
I know.
See, I have a problem.
Dr. Shivog, I asked that question deliberately because if the banks were in the room, they had that consultation and all of that with the CBN, and they were going to have a challenge. Maybe I should ask, Mr. Onoja. Dr. Ashibogu here admits that, yes, there is significant or sufficient interface between you, the CBN, and the banks. But he's also concerned about capacity. And I'm asking, were there issues raised by the banks to say, okay, we may have a challenge in the area of implementation of this policy because of the challenge of capacity?
Thank you very much for that opportunity. True to what he said, there had been very cordial stakeholder engagement. In fact, we now call it stakeholder management. We had room discussions. We had exposure drafts to them, the relevant stakeholders on this policy. And what turned out is not a surprise to them because they've been part of the discussions and the development of this circular all the way through. And so I would wonder again that I hope again we are not also delving into the arena to begin to take the Panadol for their headache.
Okay.
We have engaged them. They know, they understand what is to be done. They know they need to comply as financial institutions to the circulars of CBN. And I also want to state that could there be any challenge, we are in it together implementing. These are not days where you throw out the policy and you don't monitor the implementation. We are there to monitor the implementation. And if there are reasons to tweak it for more effectiveness, it's not static, it's not cast on stone. It's a dynamic environment we are in today. But before we got to this point, the banks were carried along.
Okay.
We have the body of bank CEOs who sent their representation. In fact, they made a presentation to the Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability. They submitted their memorandum, and we looked at it, and we reviewed it together, and we agreed on some things that should be taken, and we let them understand things that will not be taken, which they agreed with us. And like I said, this is just a small pie of the bigger picture of the guide to bank charges that will be released later. So we've been carrying them along, and I think they will be able to implement.
Okay. Mr. Onoja, let me just play devil's advocate. When the banks announce their profits after tax, the figures are humongous. And I say that in capital letters. So, bringing on these charges are going to make their profits even more humongous. And this is what the common man is going to be thinking. They're already making a lot of money. You want us, okay, they charge us for maintaining our cards. My card is in my pocket. You're maintaining it for me and you're giving me a charge every month. I send SMS, you send me SMS, you send me 5 SMSs a month, you send me a bill for 20, you charge me for, you almost charge me for even walking into your banking hall. Then you are adding another charge to it when I go to use their card in somebody else's machine. Abba, Mr. Onoja, una won't kill us.
Thank you very much. Without holding forth for the financial institutions, I think people go into business like yours, like Channels Television as well, to make profit. So if the banks are doing business and they are making profit, I'm not very sure it is a crime. And
Mr. Onoja, I'm not saying they should not make profit. I'm not saying they should not make, they should. But when they're making profits that are mind-boggling and you are encouraging them to even make more, then we, the customers, begin to worry whether you have our interest at heart.
Okay, thank you. Let me just say something a little here. I understand you and I will belong to this society, and we are very responsive to the feelings of customers who we are told they can go to illegal money dealers or those who sell money on the streets, which we run to because there are no cash in the ATM. And then we pay higher. You get 20,000 from the ones that you run to, and you pay higher than 100 naira. And I think the CBN, in a bid to help customers to even pay less for the cash they will use, has brought up this 100 naira charge. I don't think it is higher than what normally people run to other places to buy cash.
Mr. Onoja.
Sorry, I think, okay.
Mr. Onoja, should we even be discussing that? Where do those money vendors get their mint money from? The central bank should look into that and stop that from happening. Currency is not meant to be for sale in public places. That is what the CBN should be looking into, not comparing ATMs to those people.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you know that some people have been convicted for having those cash, and the CBN in the recent, I think you were even the one that said it earlier, that for not complying with the regulation on cash in the machines, the CBN has fined or penalized some financial institutions heavily in the recent past. Not even in the long past, just about few months in the past. And so we are doing all that we can to ensure that there's a balanced provision of service. I'm not saying we are encouraging those to sell money. You know, there is a law that even prohibits that. And for those that are caught, CBN has taken many of them to court and even convicted, which you know, it's in the news.
Okay.
And so,
sorry, go ahead.
Can I round off? So
yes.
What I'm trying to round off here is that in all these things, I want us to look at the net benefit to the customer. The net benefit to the customer, who we are saying should be able to have access to cash at any point in time. Not also forgetting that we have also encouraged electronic transactions as much as possible. The payment infrastructure has improved very much, and we are also going towards a cashless environment where we say let there be minimum cash to spend, and then the channels are available for you to transact your business in a very seamless way, like what happens in other environments where we also go. So we are not going to revert the wheel to say, let's go back to so much of cash transaction. We know the consequence of it. Okay. And so each channels are also available for us to use in the event that we need to transact our business as it should be.
Mr. Onoja, if, according to a report we received, use of ATM dropped from 70% to 40%, are you looking that this, your new policy, will encourage more people to use ATM machines?
Absolutely.
It will?
Yes.
It won't encourage me.
Why don't people use the ATM? Because they go there, they don't find cash. And we are saying that this new circular is going to encourage banks to maintain the old ATMs and even to deploy
because they're making money out of it now. Okay, all right, I get you.
Well, I'm not sure that Dr. Ashibogu agrees with you.
Dr. Ashibogu, you're shaking your head. What do you have to say about that?
I love Mr. Onoja's optimism. And I would be glad that this would happen. You know, he's talked about laws, he's talked about policies in place. And I'll draw one analogy of a land conflict that got to the Supreme Court, and it favored another party. And this is 30 years, nobody has had the courage to enter that land. It's not about just the law. It's not about the policy. You should also you should take into consideration some the nuances. You take into consideration some cultural issues. You take into consideration behavioral patterns that people have cultivated over time. I don't recall, for me, except it's absolutely necessary that it's only the bank that can solve that problem, I don't recall walking into a bank premises. Either I could use the app, or I would walk to a POS person on my street and just ask for the cash.
Okay.
Because why we're saying this is, it's important that it's good for a policy to exist, it's good for a policy to come in place, and yes, it's going to protect the financial institutions from going under, because there's a lot that is coming with the cost. And you've talked about this humongous profit. But the issue is that when you look at these financials, you should also ask for the cash flow. It's one to declare 1 trillion or 10 trillion as profit. It's another to say exactly what's the cash at hand.
Okay.
And so these are the disconnects we're having. We're looking at this reality. So when you talk about a policy that speaks to reality, it will be fine, because when you create a policy that will create some form of ripple effect and people would move or transition to another place, yes, put the cash and let people go to the ATM machines. Fine, I don't have a problem with that. But it's the same CBN that created the financial inclusion policy that gave birth to these POS machines dotting the landscape.
Well, he has also said already that they have considered some of these things. Well, when you talk about, everyone has been talking about the humongous profits. First, Akimboyewa calls it supernormal profits. Okay, but there's a couple of other comments. Says Adeolu Ojo says, honestly, I think Nigerians should do more detailed analysis before holding a position. Compare paying minimum of 200 naira on every 10,000 naira to paying 100 naira on every 20,000 naira and pick the better. At least there are options, he says. So, Festus Akinboyewa also says, instead of driving people to POS operators when they charge high fees, CBN should encourage private businesses to have ATM machines and charge minimum transaction fees. This will allow Nigerians to have more access to their money. Well, I think Mr. Onoja already spoke to the latter. That the former, he says he wants us to talk about it some other time. Well, we will. Guanto Emos Tatium has this one. Says the ATM hike, the hike in ATM fee, the explanation from CBN is not clear at all. Nigeria, my country, everything is shady. But I don't know what you mean by that one. I think it's clear enough now with all the analysis. Well, you sent this about 10 minutes ago. Maybe it was during the time that you were still listening. But Mike Usman is asking you, Mr. Onoja, the reasons we cannot use MasterCard to order goods from abroad through online payments anymore.
Sincerely, I'm personally not aware that you cannot use your card to order the services or goods from abroad. And if you have a challenge with that, my advice is that probably you approach your financial institution that issued the card to you, and it can be resolved. And if it becomes a consumer issue and your financial institution is not listening to you, you have the Consumer Protection Department in the Central Bank of Nigeria to consult. So I don't have that information about MasterCards not being able to activate the procurement of services or goods from abroad.
Well, he's also saying that, as Mike Usman says, at the end, items you should spend 10,000 naira on to buy, when using MasterCard, you will end up spending like 16,000 after converting the money to dollar, and this will affect the cost of selling. It's killing, he says. Would you put that as a part of the vagaries of doing business, Mr. Onoja?
Why I'm saying that is because I use MasterCard and I use it to buy tickets. I use it to do a lot of transactions. I've never been debarred from using my card from transacting the services or procuring services or goods that are not made in Nigeria. So it's again talking about the exchange rate, which is I think outside the discourse right now. So if you are buying things in dollars and you are using your Naira card to pay for it, obviously the exchange rate is going to determine how much your account to be debited. So I think the exchange rate issue is beyond this discussion. But I think that is the point.
Well, Festus Akinboyewa, again, he's sitting by his TV set this morning, says when UK banks wanted to charge customers for ATM withdrawals, the regulator stood on the side of customers and blocked it. That's what CBN should be doing, he says. Is that what CBN is doing?
I am aware that in the UK, you go to a supermarket or a superstore to use your card on a machine that is not installed by your financial institution. You pay premium for it. So I don't think there's anything strange with this remote surcharge that we are discussing today.
Okay.
And again, it encourages private investors, which we started before at CBN. We suspended it, but it's a business that other people go into in other countries. You see a machine that is deployed by private investors that are not the financial institutions. And so you go there, it gives you the availability of cash, but you have to pay for it.
All right.
So I don't know what part of the UK that he is speaking from,
okay,
but I know that very well. Yeah?
Okay. Well, Dr. Ashibogu, one of the things that anyone would look at this morning concerning this conversation is how it affects micro, small, and medium enterprises. Even though some of the service providers themselves, financial service providers themselves are also SMEs, it will look like at the end of the day, this policy has a way of swinging back and forth, on the concerning the impact on businesses.
Okay, let me just use it as a joke, If the dollar goes up, the woman selling plantain, you want to buy plantain, she hikes her price, she says dollar has gone up. And plantain and palm oil have no business with the dollar at that moment. But everybody will just tell you the dollar has gone up. So once this happens, the next thing they tell you, bank has increased their charge for cash. And the truth is that if you look at the average, because some of these policies come as a function of research, most people who you find in the long queues on POS machines, ATM machines, most of them don't do more than 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. That was what led to the emergence of the over-the-counter 150,000, and then other channels. You have to use other electronic channels, because we found that those who were coming more often over the counter to do withdrawal of cash were doing less than 150,000, and so they could push them to the ATM machines to pull out cash with their cards. But interestingly, everybody will claim now that he is withdrawing 1 million naira. 1 billion naira, So that's why I said we should also take into consideration the nuances. Once you just say 100 naira has been added, everybody just believes, oh, it's 100 naira, I should add 200 naira to my fee immediately. So that's what I'm saying.
But he says he doesn't want us to discuss that one.
Yeah, but you will see the percentage of persons. Okay. The percentage of persons who will even do 20,000 naira at a go are not as many as we think they are. The truth is that if the cash is available on the machines, and people come there, frequency is 5,000, 3,000, 4,000, 10,000.
Depending on the location in the country.
Every 200 withdrawals.
Can I just clarify something quickly, please?
Go ahead, please.
I think this discussion is going on as if everybody that goes to withdraw cash from ATM pays 100 naira, which is not true.
Yeah.
We are only saying that if you withdraw on a bank ATM that is not yours,
yes,
so a greater percentage who will want to avoid this cost will go to their bank's ATM and they will have cash. You can even withdraw 1,000 naira and go. You don't pay any naira. You withdraw 20,000 naira without cost. Let this conversation not be as if everybody that goes to ATM to withdraw cash pays 100 naira. That is not correct. So if I keep going to my bank because I want to reduce my cost.
Yes.
The bank branches are there. I choose to operate ABC Bank. And so I also choose to make sure I use the ABC ATM. Even if I withdraw 1 million times in a month, I don't pay anything.
Okay. Mr.
Even if I
Onoja,
find, yes.
Mr. Onoja, so the charge is from 20,000 naira. Is that correct?
No. If you are withdrawing on an ATM that is not yours, even if you are withdrawing 1,000 naira, you pay the 100 naira. But you cannot. What we have said is that, like you said earlier, we have witnessed situations where banks will limit the amount you can withdraw using the ATM of another bank on their own machine.
Okay.
As it is now, you can withdraw up to 20,000, whether you are using the card on your bank's ATM or you are using the card on another bank's ATM.
Okay.
So no bank can restrict you, can let me use the word, refuse you to withdraw 20,000 and below at a go.
Okay, while we are talking about the ATM themselves this morning, Mr. Onoja, and you said now that, you are not even aware that certain cards are not working. In the process of mentioning that, some people have also raised issues about certain cards not working in the country. How are you aware that happens from time to time? That, okay, is this kind of card or is that kind of card is not working for one reason or the other? When those things happen, what could be the reason?
I had said earlier that I use MasterCard and it works for me all the time. So that's why I said I'm not aware that MasterCards have stopped working. Even this week, I used MasterCard and it worked for me. Both on local and international transactions, it works for me.
Okay.
So when the colleague there said MasterCard, that's why I responded that way. That I'm not aware. What I'm trying to say in essence is that MasterCard works and it works for me on international transactions and even local transactions.
Is there a difference between MasterCard and Naira MasterCard, for instance? Because people have different kinds of cards.
Now, going to the cards, again, I know that the card issue is a different discussion altogether.
Yes.
But many times, sometimes when cards don't work, a lot of factors are responsible. Even though I use card that works, I've had situations where my cards fail to work. And I go to my bank and reasons are given. Sometimes it could be infrastructural failure, it could be network failure, it could be anything else. So reasons for failure are varied.
Now, there are times where people want to, say, purchase something in foreign currency, and they're using their domestic account. Like, say, I want to buy anything in whatever currency in the world, and I'm trying to use my Naira card, and for one reason or the other, it doesn't work. Does that also have to do with internet network or some inter-platform challenges?
There are times in this country that for management of forex, there are limits that each financial institution places on daily transactions on their local card, denominated in dollar or pounds or whatever. There are limits that are placed for transactions on weekly basis or monthly basis. Many times those things apply, but financial institutions will always advise their banks that you can spend $300 equivalent using your Naira card, either on weekly, for instance anyway, using your Naira denominated card, either on weekly or monthly basis. So if you have exceeded your limit, as it were, that is using a Naira denominated card, then you may have a situation where your card may not work for you. So we have had that situation before, and those of us who are in the financial cycle, we understand that, and the banks understand, and even customers are always advised. Then, but if you have your domiciliary account, that is a card that is denominated in dollars or
pounds,
or pounds, for instance, I'm not sure you have any limit to that spending. And so that's why I don't want to go into those complexities, but there exists, which you know that there exists, and banks will always advise you that for now, for reasons of forex and all of that, you can only spend $500 worth of transaction on a monthly basis, and if you exceed your limit, it will just tell you have exceeded your limit for the month or for the week, as the case may be.
Okay. Mr. Adebisi Olani says, this new CBN policy will allow the POS operators to increase their charges. Please, the policy should be stopped. This is Adebisi Olani.
Okay, let me say something about the POS and the financial inclusion. You know that the Central Bank of Nigeria has been at the forefront of driving financial inclusion in the past years. And we've recorded a lot of successes. We have increased the financial inclusion rate significantly. And even we are also collaborating with the federal government. Just last week, there was a committee that was inaugurated with the central bank governor and the deputy governor of financial system stability as members of strategic committees to also drive further the idea of financial inclusion. And internally, you may be aware too that we have a whole division with a full-fledged staff devoted to the idea of financial inclusion. When we came out with the issue of agency banking, it is to drive financial inclusion. I just know that that is not the subject of discussion, and I wouldn't want to divert our attention to that. But just to suffice it to say that the Central Bank of Nigeria has recorded and has even been giving accolades for driving financial inclusion. Now, we talk about deploying machines on remote locations. To me, I think the Nigerians should also appreciate it that is also part of financial inclusion. A situation where you don't have a bank branch in a location, but yet you can go to a machine and access cash, to give everybody the sense of that accessibility to cash.
Okay, that's commendable. Okay.
Correct. Thank you very much. At least for once, I got a commendation. Currently, there is a high-level committee working in the governor's office on access to cash. As I speak, I'm not even sure if today, Saturday, they are still not working.
Okay.
So the CBN is actually working on giving Nigerians access to cash and trying to deploy all policies and machineries and even supervision and infrastructure, even committing a lot of budget to this.
Mr. Noja, we've run completely out of time. I'm sorry, we've run completely out of Dr. Ashibogu, your final word on this, please, just before we go.
Well, I think the policy is okay. Let's watch the implementation by March 1st, and let's see if there will be any effect to it. And I think the CBN, in their wisdom, said they will keep rejigging it to make it better. So let's look forward to March 1st when it starts, and let's see how successful it will go. And then if there are issues, I think the CBN has the capacity to deal with it.
Okay. Mr. John Simon Onoja, Acting Director, Financial Policy and Regulation Department, Central Bank of Nigeria, who joined us virtually. And we also had Dr. Monday Ashibogu, a public affairs analyst, in the studio with us to look at this all-important hike in ATM fees.
But just for your information, both, particularly Mr. Onoja, Festus Sakimbewa says, my MasterCard and Visa card had never worked in the UK, and Nigeria's retailers had never accepted my UK card to make purchases in Nigeria. Please, you have to pay to come and explain that one on Channels Television. Okay, and so, interestingly, Mr. Onoja has said that we're not talking about cards today.
Well, you'll have to come again, Mr. Onoja, to talk to us about the other cards and why they don't seem to work in Nigeria.
Okay, so we'll take a short break, and I hope you've had a cup of cocoa or cocoa already this morning. If you have not, it's not too late.